Good evening. Today is May 21, 2026. We're here for the Lincoln City Council regular meeting, 6 p.m. And first, if we could ask Pastor Kevin Nelson from East Lutheran Church for the invocation.
Cool. This reading from Psalm 104. O Lord, how manifold are your works. In wisdom you have made them all. The earth is full of your creatures. Yonder is the sea, great and wide. Creeping things innumerable are there. Living things both small and great. There go the ships and Leviathan that you formed to sport in it. These all look to you to give them their food in due season. When you give to them, they gather it up. When you open your hand, they are filled with good things. When you hide your face, they are dismayed. When you take away their breath, they die and return to the dust. Let's pray. Lord God, you have created us and you have breathed life into our lungs. Every breath we take breathes in the breath of all those who have gone before us. We pray, O God, that the breath that we breathe in will encourage us to breathe out the words of your wisdom. We pray that you will fill the council at this meeting with your wisdom, with your love and your encouragement. We pray that you will fill all the citizens of this great city with your love and encouragement. We pray that all the words spoken here will lift up the citizens of this community to bring us to be the community you have created and called us to be. We pray all this in your precious and holy name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. If we could get the roll call, please.
Artaga,
Here.
Berenson,
Here.
Mayor Berglund,
Here.
Davis,
Here.
Albitri,
Here.
If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And put all the chairs up front. And I see announcements on the agenda. Are there any announcements? I will carry on to our public comment period. Public comment is limited to what is on the agenda and the form or the last meeting's agenda. Second call is public comment. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for your time this evening. We're just we started this the last meeting tonight over here in Apple Creek Bowling Community. We're getting kind of thinking we're getting mixed numbers. You know, I'm an idiot, I can't find it, but ChatGPT can't find the information that Brett has given me. This 600 square feet, some other things. We put this together real quick for you. You can look through it. I'm certain nothing will happen this meeting. But we should try to remedy this. There's like 8 people in that court that want to build a garage. There's not gonna be any downside to that.
Okay, and what I'm gonna ask is that our public works director received, did you have an extra?
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe he'd be able to answer some questions for you. Ultimately, this would be a planning and zoning issue. I think be sure that if you ask.
We'll share right up front, sir.
The chair right up front.
Yeah, hey,
But maybe he'll be able to answer some of those questions, but
well, that's really what I just wanted to hand you guys this stuff and let you look at it. You know, not necessarily tonight, but just see what you think of that. The way I read all of that stuff, the setback is 3 to 5 feet, not 7. On Lincoln's very own. Oh, it'd be the 3rd page. It says R5, you know, RR1, R1, R2, R5, contact park manager. You know, that's, and if you go to the very last page, I believe, no, that's our permit. No, that's something my daughter spoke at. Planning and zoning, in there anyways, I have a written assigned consent. Oh, it's actually the 2nd page. I have assigned consent from management over at the mobile home park. You know, maybe you guys can start moving forward too and try and, if it is 600, you know, let's start moving forward and trying to get that bumped up a little bit. I guess is all I have. We don't want to beat the bush tonight, I don't think, but we can get the ball rolling, that'd be great. Like I spoke last time, times tickets, you know, contractors are hard to come by.
sure.
I guess that's all I have for you guys. Anybody have any questions for me?
I think it's a good idea to.
This is
do-
Loretta.
Oh, Brett is online, or engineer.
I'm online. I would just be interested in getting copies of the information that you are sharing. Part of the discussion I had with legal had to do with this property itself being one single lot, and how do we handle the zoning requirements of R5? You know, is a 3-foot setback on just that one lot, so how does
That's
that look?
according to Century Code, I have it in this document.
Okay, well, in our R5 zoning, there are setbacks and size. That's where that 600 foot comes in, square foot comes in. But in addition to that, one of the things that we were discussing is having the property owner would be the responsible party to pursue this. And if you are sharing that you have some documentation from them, that would help us in our process.
Yes, I have that, yes. In return, I would like to find, where you guys have your information, because like I said, if I can't find it, no big deal, but ChatGPT, she knows everything.
It is on the city website under the municipal code.
I read
And that
all
takes-
that. I can't find it anywhere.
In section 9, if you give me a second, I'll be able to share the spot within all of that it is located.
There was about 12 pages on swimming pools in there for some reason.
So it would be chapter 4, section 4-03 talks about R5 residential district. And that's where all this information is contained with regards to Apple Creek. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And if you have questions, let me know. But if you'd be able to share those documents with me, that would definitely help us in our process of how to move forward with this, especially with it being one lot and a separate owner.
I have a question. So this park management acknowledgement, 5/19/26, right? Is that the correct date for when it was received
Yep.
from you?
Yep.
Okay. And then that's approving you of a 20/40, right?
28 by 40, yes.
Yep. Or the trailer park or a garage already, the park management's good to go with that.
good to go.
Perfect, thank you for confirming it for.
They, she was gonna try to make it tonight.
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
Oh, there she is. Yeah, all that does, and in the park, you know, there's rules, right? You're supposed to keep your place neat and tidy.
Right.
That's what we're trying to do, keep things safe, neat, and tidy. Nobody's ever seen the mess inside my garage, right? The mess is inside.
Do you currently have a garage structure?
I'm doing this for my future son-in-law and my daughter. My daughter is abroad with
Yep.
you, Mary, right now, so
Yep.
she can't be here to speak, and Nathan don't say much.
No, thank you for confirming that one with us, just so that we know who we're trying to help out. This is
Yep,
property, property, just to verify.
Yeah, it's their property,
Perfect,
but
okay, and
I'm
then,
just speaking for that.
so then they don't have one currently, but they got approved for a 28 by 30.
Yep, there is no, no, it's a brand new mobile home. They just purchased it in January.
Okay, okay.
And that's,
Wanna build a garage?
you know, before they bought it, you know, that was told them, yep, you can put a garage up and,
Right,
you know, the court's very willing, you know, we were told the court's very willing.
many have them.
And, you know, it creates tax revenue as well for the next 40 years. So, you know,
Like you said, it also improves safety too, the cars can be in there,
everything,
other stores, so,
out of sight, out of mind, right?
yes, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you
Thank
guys.
you.
Any questions for me?
I have one more.
Go ahead.
I'm just curious, if there's contact information with who you're working with, for the park, so that I would have the correct information to reach out to that person, because my guess is this will be very helpful for the other families that I've talked to regarding, accessory structures in the park.
Yes, it's Michelle, and her phone number is on the copy of the approval.
Do you
Great,
have,
okay.
the engineer's email, I'm right here, sorry. Do you have the engineer's email by chance?
I do not. I've left her several messages, haven't gotten a call back.
We can get that to you so that you guys can communicate and share what you have here with her, so that you can get that information.
Yeah. Perfect.
And, okay, our public works director is taking care of that right now. We'll get that
Okay.
information for you.
Beautiful. Done?
All right, thank you, unless you have something else.
No, I'm done.
Thank
you.
Thank you so much. This is your time for public comment.
I'm gonna go up right after. Sure. I'm Michelle Fenrick.
Welcome.
I'm the park manager at Apple Creek.
Michelle, can you move the mic down just a little bit? I'm sorry. Thank you so much.
Okay, so as he was touching on, there's not transparency in what you need permits for. I'm getting flooded with, do I need it for a shed? Do I need it for a sidewalk? I mean, we own the property. So one person will tell me, no, we own the property. Another person will say, no, I have to have it inspected. So we need something done with the website of telling us, what do I need an inspection for? I mean, that would be more helpful too. Another thing is permits. I can build a home in Minnesota and it can be delivered before a permit will be happening. That's how long our permits are taking. I can go to Mandan and my permits only take 48 hours. And the process is 5 pages here. And that's like 1 page in Mandan. So I have some documents. I'm gonna give you guys one here. And when I was at the state's attorney's office in Morton County, the attorneys had drawn up about those documents. And I don't know if I can help or if we can just like do some of these documents to help the process go faster.
Okay, perfect.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you. And we will give this to Auditor Oni and we'll take a look at the processes. Thank you.
This is Loretta again. Another item that we looked into with regards to those moving permits is that, it's combined with getting the structure itself through the community. And I don't believe that that's included together in other communities. So it would be something worthwhile to look at. That definitely would, change how those are processed.
Thank you, engineer. And maybe we'll have to do a little checklist, you know, of specific for the local community versus side, if that's good to hear. So take a look. And any other public comment? Second call. Third and final call for public comment. And seeing none, we'll move on to item E, the approval of the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda. It was my understanding that item G and item I are actually part of the same proposal. So if we could combine those two under G.
All right, we have a first by Councilman Bjornstad. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Albitre. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved. So then do we have a motion to approve the amended agenda?
I'd make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
We have first by Councilman Bjornstad. Second by Councilman Albitre. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And so moved. Item F, the consent agenda, under which we have the minutes from 4/23/26 and May 7/26, as well as the Mandan Baseball Club gaming site application. What are your wishes?
I'd like to make a motion to amend the consent agenda to add number 4, Furry Friends Rocking Rescue gaming site application. Should be included in the packet.
All right, we have a first to amend the consent agenda to include item number 4, the Furry Friends gaming site authorization. Is there a second?
I'll second motion.
Second by Councilwoman Artavia. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And so moved.
I would make a motion to approve the amended consent agenda.
First by Councilman Bjornstad, is there a second?
Second motion.
Second by Councilwoman Artavia. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No opposed. So moved. Next, under business, we have our engineer, Loretta Marshak from SEH.
Good evening, council members, Madam Mayor. Included in your packet are 3 letter proposals that address the sanitary sewer modeling, the water system modeling, and storm drainage modeling for the city. They're set up as separate proposals. I've been working with Administrator, Ani, with regards to these. I've also shared them with Public Works Director Shute. These are the modeling utility items that we have been discussing, that information would be helpful for us to move forward in determining what types of capital projects are needed in the community, what kind of abilities we have to service different areas, and how we need to place projects, like what order and how we can lump things together. They also having this modeling and information helps when we're out looking for grant funding. So tonight we are looking for your consideration on these 3 separate letter proposals. Do you have any questions for me on those? Would you like me to go through them separately? I could do that as well. Let me know what your preference would be.
Can you just clarify what the recommendation is?
So the recommendation from engineering would be to move forward with these 3 separate modeling exercises so that it would give us the ability to understand the systems that we currently have in place. And it would assist us as we move forward in developing the needed projects and how we can prioritize those going forward.
I would appreciate a brief overview if possible.
Yes.
And how much it would cost?
All right, give me just a second here and I will pull these up. So the first, I guess I didn't realize in the packet that there's a statement in here from the Public Works Director. So I don't know if you would like me to address that as well. Otherwise, I'm just going to jump to.
I would ask, is the administrator Ani, are you on tonight? I thought she was going to comment.
As available, she's has more things going on, so
Oh, okay.
she could be responsible the whole time.
Director Shu, would you like to? Or would you like the engineer to continue?
Yeah, she can.
Okay. All right, Loretta, go ahead.
Okay, I know that I'll just share that I had told Lisa that I would work through these in case that she wasn't on at the moment that this came up in the meeting. So the first one I'll address is the sewer modeling for Lincoln. The scope of work would consist of project administration, modeling, and a final document.
I'm sorry, which one of these three proposals is it that we're working on right now?
The sewer modeling.
This one and this one?
Okay, I got 4, sorry. Okay, sorry about that.
It's fine. I want you to be able to have it in front of you. So part of this project is going to be the project administration, which is, a monthly progress report, schedule tracking, budget oversight, and communication with the city, as well as monthly invoicing. The different modeling is going to include data collection and data review, flow estimation, and development of the model itself. After that is collected, there is a point where they go through and calibrate and validate the information in the model and then evaluate the system as a whole. And at the end of that, SEH will prepare a final comprehensive document that puts all that information together. That document is typically what then gets shared for grant applications for future projects. The proposed fee for this letter proposal is $37,236. The schedule for this, if we get started, is 90 days. So it's not based on a specific date, but they put together a 90-day time frame to get this model developed. Questions on the sanitary model or sewer modeling?
Do we not have something in place like this already?
I don't believe so. I could let Director Shute tell you more about what the current system looks like.
Director Shu, are we?
Yep.
Okay, just one moment, please.
council, mayor. So currently, we don't have anything for our storm or our sewer right now, but we are getting the town camera, and we've already started doing that. We've started on the west end of the south side of Lincoln Road, and we're working our way east, cameraing all the sewers, and the goal is to get as much camera this year as we can, whichever left, what's what we have in the budget, and then next year do more, another section and just another section. So we're trying to work our way through the entire town, cameraing the whole system. So, I don't know what SCH plans is for doing the modeling for this. I don't know if that would be more extensive than cameraing the whole thing and getting whatever, but I would have to talk more with Loretta about that and what it's all gonna entail. So otherwise.
So
So how
from
much-
our, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
From my standpoint, the cameraing and this modeling are really two different things. The cameraing gives us an idea of the condition of the pipe, but the modeling is what gives us our flows and tells us how the system is with like pipe slopes and construction dates, bottlenecks, flood condition or field conditions. It just is more comprehensive than what we would get from the cameraing. The cameraing is definitely beneficial as well when we are looking at what needs to be maintained within the system. But the model helps us understand how the system's working, and it also allows us to look at what we can do in the future. So if a new development would come in on a certain part of the city, you can plug that into the model and determine if we are going to be able to service that area based on our current system. So kind of two separate things. It's not one or the other. Really, we need both as a community.
Director, do we have a system right now that tracks the flow of the water through the pipes?
Our GIS will tell us which way it's flowing, but other than that, I think more what Loretta is focusing on is with the new area coming in, will our current system with the size of pipe we have be able to handle that additional flow? That is what she wants to find out. That's what she needs to model for that.
So are you in favor of or make recommendation for approval?
Yeah, I would be in favor of this just so we know what we have to, where our system needs upgrading for future growth and everything it would be a good idea for that, yes.
So I have a few more questions for you. How old is this camera system that we're using? And how much does it cost?
How old is it? We are hiring it out right now. We had pipe detectives come in and do it.
So you're hiring it out. So
Yes.
we don't have cameras to just go and do it ourselves
No.
leisurely. Okay, and then how much is that hiring somebody else?
It is we currently got done from Santee west, so Sturgis Loop, all of Stanley Drive, part of Custer, and Pennant Gibbons and Eccleston, all done, and they ended up having to clean a certain part of it. They couldn't get their camera through it. It was like, I think it was like 12,000.
It's on your payables.
What's that?
It's on your payables.
So with this new development coming up, right, we've known that this development is coming. We've talked about how we can service that area and expand before this development gets developed. Hence, a reason of why we got a new water tower to help and because the water tower needed to be replaced. But the connections right, to that area. I recall a couple years ago, us trying and wanting to get bigger piping so that we knew that area would be well taken care of water flow, water getting to and from, no problems, we won't have to go back and forth. Or put pressure on our other systems that we got going on. So. Yeah, to me, I think it would have been wise for the city to extend our pipings so that we could have had all of this done and squared away years ago before this became, on our plate. I personally don't see, a full benefit of all three, but that's just my opinion.
Excellent.
Do you know, since, I apologize, on your recommendation for approval on two of the plans, you said on what accounts it would be coming out of, do you know if the sewer account would be able to cover for this year, this 37,256?
As of right now, it would be cover that, I believe. I don't have exact numbers, but I know it will be able to.
It's
Through all
basically
of the accounts.
just reduce the amount of cammering that you've
Yes,
done throughout the years.
yes. All it would do is basically, I wouldn't be able to, the plan was to have them come back towards the end of summer and do another section if I had the money available, so.
So we're not committed to the entire city at that
No.
point.
No,
Great. Any more questions?
What about, okay, so are we being asked to approve both of these? Or just pick? What is your recommendation, engineer?
Let's,
There are three
there's three.
So we're to choose one because I only see amounts on two of them. Am I missing something?
with one.
Okay, so this is the one that I don't see.
Or
There's an amount on all three.
It's on the backside.
Okay. Exhibits I have.
I have it up there.
so are you changing your recommendation at this point or keeping it at 2?
I guess the storm sewer needs to be looked at, because that's failing, and it's where we have water pooling and building up in the gutters, it should have additional storm drains put in around town, and it should have way more than what we have. The town was built next to the slough, and the plan was to make everything flow there, so we didn't have to put in storm drains. Well, them sloughs have all been filled up and built on, and now there is nowhere for that stuff to go besides pooling in front of people's houses right now, because the grade is not there on a lot of this stuff.
Okay, so that's a stormwater master plan proposal.
Yeah,
And then the other one you have listed here is that water system comprehensive plan. proposal?
yes, and that one we 100% need, because we have to figure out what parts of town are bottlenecked down for the flow to meet fire flow in this new area. So we have to figure out what we can fix that way, instead of having to build another completely brand new tower in that area to supply water.
Well, that would definitely be something to take a look at. Again, just the 2, is that still your recommendation?
I would do all three.
Is this something that we could do or should do more in phases, or are we wanting all three? That's really what I'm trying to understand.
From my standpoint, we would like to do all 3 of the modeling. That will help us determine what priority to put on maintenance or replacement projects. And those projects then We can try and get grant funding, other ways that we can get assistance with money. And these reports then help support us and explain what our needs are as a community for needing the upgrades or the new systems. So that's why all three of them are in front of you at this time, because we don't have anything like that. And it would help us with improvements and updates to our system as a whole. There are three different systems. That's why there's three different proposals in front of you. But all three systems are kind of in need of the same help at this point to get us kicked off into planning what future projects might look like. And it's not just for projects for the city. It might be that a new developer comes in and we already understand, based on the models, of some needs in that area. We'll be able to share with them what those needs are going to be and what they're going to have to take and fix as part of their development. So it really is helpful for us to have that information on hand.
So you're okay with the, like, $107,000 for all three?
124 approximately.
Based on what other communities and other reports look like, I really tried to trim down the scope to be cost conscious on these. So I do believe that these are fair prices for what the city is getting as deliverables.
I have a question. Is this something that any one of the three could be contracted out or at least take a look at what, I mean, can they be done through an RFP?
I suppose that you could go that route as well.
Are any of these time sensitive for early summer here?
All of them are items that we would be waiting on to help us put together those capital improvement projects so that we can start making a plan on how are we going to fund the projects that we need to have done.
Okay, and I believe our public works director has come.
Yeah, so I know the storm sewer, we're not gonna be doing any kind of roads anytime soon. I mean, that's a couple of years out. We aren't gonna be tearing up any road, redoing any pipe or nothing like that, so. If nothing else, I would say that the storm could wait till next year or a little bit later. It's not a dire emergency one right now. I would say that the water is, because that's the big one right now. That is the major one that we're having with rural fire and all of that and rural water. So there's just a lot of information with the water that we have to know.
That's where those bigger pipes would have came in handy. You would have all known all this already.
I think we should just choose them in a linear fashion, whatever's the highest priority to choose now. Move anything else to the next fiscal budget and then choose then. I think stormwater is probably something that could wait.
Will that change with our putting our own stormwater or stormwater sewer? Never mind, different thing.
Yep.
So, all right. So is that a motion?
I'm enjoying having the discussion because I feel like I'm still looking for a little bit more information and I was appreciating, thank you, Director, for explaining, and Loretta, thank you for walking us through some of this. You were talking about the amount of days for the sewer modeling project. Did you have time estimates and did you want to further go through either of these other two proposals?
Yeah, I sure can do that as well.
I like your,
Um,
for your idea also.
Okay, go ahead, Loretta.
the next one I'll dive into here is the water system. And so I can just give you a little background on that, is that Lincoln had completed a system planning and hydraulic modeling system in the past, but since that time, the city's put together multiple major projects, including the additional tank and transmission changes, a booster station. Those things all change what the model looks like and how it works. So, along with the continued development and annexation, that places new demands on the system. So, as part of that, that's why we're looking at this proposal for a new model. The work plan proposes a 4-task work plan. So there would be an update to the hydraulic model, an evaluation of the current system performance, developing a clear defensible plan for future improvements, and that'll build on previous data that's been available, and it'll emphasize efficient use of that data. So task 1 is the project initiation, data review, and the hydraulic model update. Task 2 is an existing system performance evaluation. Task 3 is future conditions and improvement alternatives. And task 4 is a comprehensive water plan update. Again, that document is something that would assist us with obtaining funding for future projects. This project is giving us a 20-week time frame for completion and a estimate of $51,000. I believe the document itself gets in the weeds a little more about what each of those activities gives for deliverables, what you're looking at within those. So I can definitely get into that more if you would like, but I think this gives you just a little bit of an overview of the proposal itself. Any questions for me on the water portion?
And this is the portion that would help with fire, with fire flows and whatnot.
Yes.
I personally think that's the highest priority. It's been very recent that we've discussed that. Especially considering the other two are just slightly over the cost of this one. I think it might be prudent to do this one sooner than later than the other two together at a later date.
I will jump into the third one here. So the third proposal that was included in your packet was the Stormwater Master Plan. Based on the continued growth and increased demand on the system, we really need a complete understanding of how the system performs. And it's difficult to prioritize improvements and respond to flooding concerns or plan for any future development without understanding how drainage works within the community. So the approach of this project is through a combination of technical I guess, analysis. And some of that includes some decision making on the city's part, but the team would put together hydrologic and hydraulic models for the city to be able to look at its our drainage system as a whole. It helps with the surface runoff, storm sewer infrastructure, culverts, how those systems convey the water through the community, and those help locate flood-prone areas, evaluate limitations, and understand how the system performs under different storm events. So understanding what might possibly happen with the larger event storms or larger intensity storms. A scope of service includes project management, data collection, and existing system evaluations, identifying deficiencies in the system, reviewing findings with the staff, and then an existing conditions report. The deliverables would include communication tools and technical deliverables such as GIS, flood risk mapping, and then the hydrologic and hydraulic modeling files themselves. Based on that, the scope gives us about a 4-month, I believe it is. Yes, 4-month time frame for getting this completed, and the proposed fee is at $35,000. Any questions pertaining to the drainage system model?
I'll just make a note, engineer, when it rains, West Nolan definitely flows pretty fast with water, and it goes straight down to the lagoons. So just keep that in mind as well. I know that's not the only area, but it definitely has been an area that gets hit quite a bit.
To know. Thank you for that.
I am looking at the map that you have included, that flood-prone area, but I am having trouble. Understanding. It's not Lincoln. Yeah, I was looking at that going, I'm not seeing this as Lincoln, so this was just an example.
This is an example of some of the output that you would get that would help be a visual of what is happening in Lincoln. Yeah, this is another community, but the visual gives you an idea of, it's not always easy to understand a document itself, but sometimes looking at a visual like this is helpful to understand where the problem areas are in the community. And this is just an example that they put together for another community.
Thank you. Council, questions or comments?
So if you were to consider moving forward with Councilman Albitri's form of thinking here and starting with the most urgent need first, what would both of your recommendations be?
Water.
Which
I would agree with Terry. I think the water is a more important. From my standpoint, I think the sewer comes in a close second because having this information helps with obtaining funding. So for projects that we would have upcoming, water definitely helps me better. I just put in for 3 proposed projects that would be helpful for that ridge development area. And that is for projects out into 2027, 2028, and 2029, that biennium. So when you're planning, I mean, we are planning, a number of years out. So having the documentation to help us obtain, hopefully grant dollars, right? Or cost shares. That's part of why I feel like these are very important for us. But I'm still going to go back to say, if I had to pick the most important one, it would be water.
Great, thank you. Council?
I guess my opinion on it, I would definitely agree that the water system comprehensive plan should definitely be a priority. Primarily considering fire suppression throughout the city. I would consider the idea of also approving the sewer modeling at this time as well. Just under the thought process of water going in is important, but making sure that water coming out is also having a place to go. Especially with new developments popping up around the city. I feel like it may be a close priority to the water as well.
Anyone else? Okay, is there a motion?
I guess I would like to see a little bit more about finances and what we have available, at least as an available right now for us to talk that through with her.
Auditor Irving, would you like to speak to that? Or put this on for next meeting? To
Yeah,
consider?
For the funding, for the funding for this year?
Pardon?
I would definitely like to make sure that it's within the budget.
Okay, I'll switch right into that. You're talking about for being able to afford it for funding this year.
If it's over the budget.
Where see it coming from, or can you help us?
Repairs and maintenance or operating maintenance or, one of the things that we've been talking about too is, your guys' future planning. Why didn't other people do future planning and looking at that kind of stuff? This is gonna help us know what we're looking at in the future for capital improvements and what we're gonna be looking at going forward.
Do we suppose that there's a way that we could look a little bit more closely between now and the next meeting to just sort of, for me personally, to feel a little bit more comfortable with whatever decision we put forward? I would just love to be able to understand it a little bit more and kind of mull over it.
Yeah, that's not a problem either. It's just one of the things that you guys have to consider, like you're looking at one's 90 days, one's 4 months, one's 20 weeks. Then, and if these things are something that, yes, there's gonna be costs up front to see where we're standing, where we're at, but kind of like Loretta said, is gonna help for those applying for those grants or looking out there for additional funding to help the city.
Right.
If we have this base step done.
Yeah, and I'm definitely for the projects, but we just have to make sure that the funding and everything is right before we put too much weight on it, in my opinion.
One thing to keep in mind too is that each one of these projects, the funding would be coming from a separate account. So each account is gonna have its own budget. So it's not all just hitting one account.
And I want to kind of look at that a little bit more closely to feel more comfortable going forward personally.
I do have a comment if you guys can hear me.
Our administrators on.
Yes, but it's going to be a little bit loud. We do have those two special assessment accounts that the special assessment district was from 2004 till 2025. And those funds are no longer being used. And I've reached out to our state auditor and visited with him a little bit about using those revenues. One of those accounts was a sewer improvement district. The other was a water improvement district. We are allowed to, because there's no more bonds due on either of those accounts, that money can go back into the general fund. And that is where I had planned on paying for those, the two that I have recommended going forward with as far as future planning.
You recall offhand how much is in those accounts right now?
It's almost 600,000 combined.
And hearing the conversation that was had, do you change your recommendation? Because it was stated that the water system comprehensive plan and the sewer modeling And then the third coming in would be that stormwater master plan.
I'm sorry, I did not hear that part, but what I had put on there is what staff is recommending after Director Shute and I have worked through the three plans that were presented. We were looking at the storm water and we were looking at the water comprehensive plan. We were going to leave the sewer at this time until later in the year and possibly into 2027.
City administrator, we have 600,000-ish combined with those two.
Yes, I think you have your cash balances later on in the meeting to look at, and you can see it's, I think 521 and 522, those two accounts. I'm sorry, I don't have paperwork in front of me. I'm just going off memory right now.
So can that fund, you said it can be moved to the general fund. So does
It
that
can
mean
be,
that
it can be moved to the general fund. But if you move it to, you got to be careful if you move it into the enterprise funds that you're only allowed to take out 20% of your revenue for the year if you ever need to put it somewhere else.
So my reason
So,
for asking is,
go ahead.
can that be used for the sewer water management facility program that we got as well going on? Does that make sense?
Yes, you're exactly right. But we, Auditor Ehrman and I have not really dug into the budget right now. We need to do that yet, but then we can see where we can pull money and to lessen that burden when it comes to the actual cost for that. You're talking the wastewater plant, right?
Yes, because that is a hefty
Yes.
bill and we need to.
It is.
For that.
It is, and we're really digging down and looking at where we can cut costs in that. I don't know if our engineer has gone over that part of her report yet, but we are really looking at where those costs are needing to be and where they can be adjusted, just as we are trying to lessen that burden, of course. And this is an important burden we need to carry, the sewer plant, but it's how can we do it the best way we can? And you're right, but we need to be able to plan on the water side of it. And that was why I wanted to do these plans. I think it was last year or maybe even earlier this year, we did a street plan. And so the looking at that street plan as well as the water infrastructure and what the needs are, that's how we're going to try to maximize what we can do when we do one. Are we going to need to do that street as well? So we're trying to make sure that we have all our target areas in the highest needs together at the same time. I hope I'm explaining it right.
It makes sense. Thank you.
Okay.
Additional discussion. Okay, what is will of council?
I think my opinion would be under the assumption that we can always add these in throughout the year if we need to. I think it would be imperative that we move forward with the water system comprehensive plan. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the water system comprehensive plan.
We have a first by Councilman Bjornstam. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Albitre. Any more discussion? Amen. If we could get the roll call, please.
Artavia,
Yes.
Berenson,
Yes.
Davis,
No,
Albitre,
Yes.
All right, motion passed and we will continue.
Thank you.
With the rest of your report.
So the next piece that I would like to update you on is the wastewater treatment facility. I can give you the information that I have received in our last meeting. They have finished Apex has finished the site survey and the flood elevation study and is working on the environmental review, geotechnical planning, treatment process layout, and cost estimation. These are all supporting the facility plan submission, regulatory review, and ongoing design, and the cost refinement as the project moves towards final design. SEH provided earlier soil borings for that area as they still have not been able to get out in dry enough conditions to do the current soil borings. And that is to help them get started on doing their processes and preliminary design efforts. Environmental review coordination is substantially complete, and they have received feedback from the reviewing agencies. However, the State Historical Preservation Office requires completion of the Class 3 Cultural Resource Survey prior to the submission of the final facility plan, and that has been quoted and is expected to be conducted in the near future, following which the facility plan will be submitted to the DEQ. Ongoing funding and coordination has been happening. The DEQ kickoff meeting is complete. Statements of value letters are completed and responses received. Facility plan submittal pending completion of the cultural resource survey will happen. The clean water SRF application process is anticipated in October of this year, and plans and specification submittal to the DEQ is scheduled for end of August, first part of September of this year. We all continue to monitor potential opportunities through the BRIC grant program that has come back around. I don't have any additional updates at this time regarding that. To touch base back again with the geotechnical soil borings, Terracon is monitoring that site. And once they're able to proceed, they'll be able to complete that geotechnical work, which is needed to finalize those foundation designs, determine footing depths, and refine the structural and cost assumptions. The facility plan and environmental requirements, as I noted, was completed, and we're waiting on that cultural survey. The design team has elected to submit a complete package rather to submit the partial documents and amend later, as the current schedule allows for the completion of all the required documents prior to the submittal. Apex also continues advancing and refining the treatment facility design. I know I saw feedback from Public Works on the layouts, and so that was being updated in the layout design. The facility itself is being designed with a focus on long-term operational efficiency, reduced maintenance requirements, use of equipment available with regional service support, and the ability to expand the system in the future with minimal disruption. We have had 5 design meetings at this point, and we are on track to submit those plans, as I had noted, to the DEQ at the end of August, advertise for bids in September, with opening bids, award contract, and begin construction in October. I did include a screenshot of one of the slides that just gives a really high level layout of where the buildings are being planned at this point. One thing to note is that already the large building, the Aeromod reactor building, has decreased in size quite a bit, which is helping on the cost of the project. So as things get refined, the costs are being reduced. Any questions for me regarding the wastewater treatment facility update?
Thanks for giving us news on cutting costs. That's great.
Any questions? No, we're not seeing any on this end.
Okay. I believe the other item that is on the agenda for engineering references the fiber optic agreement. And I'm not sure what the intent of this item was tonight, as far as if anything was on for approval. I did review the document that we have prepared, and we have a draft of that. So my thoughts were that I could give you an update regarding the broadband fiber optic lease agreement, and we can go from there. Lisa, maybe if you're on, if you could let me know if you had other thoughts with what we wanted to achieve tonight with that item. But otherwise, I'm just going to jump in and give you all some feedback.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I think at this time that we're still in that development stage, and we maybe can bring that back in the June 4th meeting for council review.
Okay.
I wasn't quite sure that we were ready for it, but I put it on the agenda in case we were ready for it.
Okay. Well, then maybe I could ask the council for table this item, and just along with that, let you know that we have a really good draft in place and are working to finalize that so that we can move forward with any viable applicants that come forward.
I'll make.
I think that would.
This third-party agreement until the next meeting on June 4th.
I think this was actually the fiber utilities.
Oh, sorry. Fiber utility agreement.
All right, we have a first by Councilman Octavia.
I'll second that motion.
Second by Councilwoman Davis. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And so moved. We'll put that on the June 4th agenda.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We will continue on then with the attorney report.
Good evening. Couple things on my list. I think that we had.
Monty, you want to use the mic, sorry? Thank you.
I think that we thought we would have a completed three-party agreement to present.
You might have timed out.
Push just the bottom button on the front of here. No, you're right. It's just on the bottom.
Hold it down.
There we go.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure, I don't need a mic. I think we thought we would have a completed three-party agreement with the contractor. Just by way of background, as part of the development, the owner, the developer of that project wants to put in water infrastructure. Under your code, the owner's not just allowed to hire a contractor. Instead, it's a three-party agreement. So City of Lincoln's a party, the owner developer's a party, and the contractor's a party. And the terms of that agreement are largely set by your code. And so what I did is I took the only draft that SEH could find of the three-party agreement, compared it to Bismarck's into the code, and produced a draft. The draft has been provided to the developer owner and to the contractor. It looks like the contractor has signed the agreement as drafted, but we have not heard yet back from the developer. So hopefully we'll have more update on that at the next meeting.
And what area are we talking about?
Loretta, can you describe what the area is that they're planning to build out?
The agreement would be for Ridge and Ridge Third Edition.
Thank you for clarifying that.
And then I think that we talked last week about the petition for exclusion. And I think maybe that's why we have a crowd here this evening, or some spectators here. I know that the attorney for the petitions is here, Mr. Solom. I don't know, maybe Mr. Solom, you'd like to address the council, or would you like me to kind of set the table a little bit on what the issues are? Okay, so by way of background, the city received 2 petitions for exclusion of territory that had been annexed into the city. For the most part, the property in both of those petitions is property that was recently annexed, although with one of the petitions, one parcel of property had been brought into the city in, I think, 2017 or 2018 at the owner's request. And so the city has these 2 petitions. The primary legal issue with the petitions is that the North Dakota law sets out when a petition for exclusion can move forward, and it has 2 limitations. One limitation is if one limitation is that the lands cannot have been platted. And then there's the listing of the century code sections, and all of it, my assessment is that all of the land that is subject to these petitions has been platted. So under the annexation and exclusion of territory statute, none of the land is eligible to be excluded as long as it's platted. The other disqualifier is that the land is not subject to exclusion where there are municipal improvements have been made or constructed therein or adjacent thereto. So and then the second question is whether or not there are city improvements in roads, water lines, sewers, light poles, anything like that is therein or adjacent to this land. So the main one that Mr. Solomon and I have been focused on is the absolute prohibition of platted property being subject to exclusion. And the remedy is that if you have platted property and you want to exclude it, you can seek to vacate the plat. And the question is whether or not you have to vacate the entire plat, which creates some titling issues and some other issues, or whether or not the petitioners could vacate just the public dedications to the plats. And we're talking about, I looked at all the plats yesterday. You're talking about, let's see, there's a 66th Street Industrial Park plat. There's the Mock subdivision plat. There's the W&S addition to the Mock subdivision plat. There's the Vetter subdivision plat. There's the Southeast Industrial Park plat. And then a couple other plats that address land that I believe the Mills family has. The issue with vacating the plat, whether you do it partially by vacating the public dedications or the entire plat, the effect is that I think almost every single one of these plats has public dedications for right-of-way, for roads, utility easements, drainage easements. And so to vacate the plat, you would have to vacate all of those public dedications. The city would have to agree to give up title to those. So how it works is when you create a plat and you dedicate things to the public, the title transfers then from the owner of those areas to the public entity. So in this case, since this property has now been annexed, the city of Lincoln now owns these public dedications. And so before the plats could be vacated, every piece of property within the plat would have to agree to the vacation, and the city of Lincoln would have to sign off on losing these public dedications, which my estimation would include right of way along 66th, utility easements along 66, Fido Drive would disappear. And there would be also access limitations or some effect on 22nd. Stormwater and drainage easements within the mock subdivision. Access and utility easements within the mock subdivision. Paintball Drive would disappear. Utility easements, then you would also lose some right of way along Lincoln Road. Sterling Drive would disappear. And then some other things in these plats.
So to go back to what it was before the annexation.
Yeah, the idea is that by deplatting the property, or I'm sorry, deplatting the property, you're turning it back to what it would look like when it was agricultural property. So I guess the practical question and why Mr. Solon is here is this process is becoming expensive. It's becoming expensive for, I'm assuming, for the petitioners, and it's becoming expensive for the city as far as how much time I have in trying to sort all this out. And at some point, it might be helpful for the city council to, you can't make any approvals without public hearings and proper petition, right? There's a process that would have to be followed for each one of these plats. A petition would have to be made for each plat that needs to be vacated. Every property owner who owns a property within each of those plats would have to agree to the vacation. The petition would have to come to the council. The council would have to have a public hearing, and then you could vacate the plat. Assuming you did all of that, then petitioners could redo their petitions for exclusion. And then you'd have to have another round of public notice and public hearings. And then you could, at your discretion, decide to allow the property to be de-annexed and no longer be part of the city, right? So there's two decision points that the council would have to decide. One is whether or not you're willing to sign off on losing these public dedications in all of these areas that are in these plats. And then assuming you got through all that, then you would have to basically agree to allow this property to be de-annexed and not be part of the city. The city could annex it again later, but probably be more difficult and have expense. And so what Mr. Solomon and I have been trying to do is figure out a system where we could bring something to you for kind of a preliminary straw poll, kind of just feel where you are on these issues, to try to avoid what is procedurally a very expensive, potentially, process. The other issue that my office has identified is that it's not 100% clear to me whether or not you have to vacate these plats in their entirety, or whether you can just vacate the public dedications, and we can't find any clear answer to that. And my thought is that if you want to go forward and we want to have an answer to that we would ask the Attorney General to give us an opinion, because the law is not clear as to how you go about vacating a plat under these circumstances. So that's kind of where I see where you are, is like, is there a political will to move forward? If there is, we might be able to figure this out, subject to maybe getting the Attorney General's opinion, because it could just be that none of this property can be de-annexed. I mean, that might be the answer, that because it's been platted, there's no way to undo that, and the statute doesn't apply, and there's no other method for providing the relief. Or the Attorney General might say, yeah, you can vacate the public dedications and not vacate the entire plats. But like I said, the law is not very clear. So I think that's where we are. And I don't know, Scott, if you have something that you want to add.
But I think that kind of sums it up. You know, we're dealing with a kind of unique situation. I've been a city attorney for variety cities, southwestern North Dakota for 30 years.
Can you talk into the mic a little bit, Everett?
Sure, sorry.
I don't think it's on.
Is that
You
better?
might have to turn it
It's
back
not.
on.
I'm gonna have to turn it on again. It came out on us, sorry.
I'm not in the mic, attorney, would have pushed. That better? No, that's still not there.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that had trouble turning the mic on.
On hold it.
There we
Mic button for you. Well, how's that? Still not? There we go.
There.
Okay. I can hear myself now.
Yeah.
So we're dealing with, you know, it's actually a very small statute. It was done back, we think back in the late 60s, mid to late 60s probably. And the legislature, like even current legislatures, really do the best they can do when they're writing statutes, but you try to troubleshoot, think down the road, you know, when you write these things up, cover things that might come up. But there's always, and you guys will figure it out when you write the ordinances, there's gonna be things that come up that you just, you know, didn't anticipate when you wrote them. So it's kind of a unique situation because we have, I think the statute, my interpretation of the statute, or what I think was done is, you know, the legislature writes a statute that says that if you get annexed in, and then the city goes through the process to plat these subdivisions, put in infrastructure, you can't de-annex. And that makes sense because there's been investment by the city at that point. In this case, the platting occurred before the annexation. All the subdivision plats, the roads that are there, which I think are all gravel roads, you know, they were all in place privately before the annexation. So the annexation happens and 2 years have gone by and Marie was gonna kind of.
I was gonna introduce you, Scott.
Not doing a good job. Sarah Weir's on the phone too. I think, Sarah, are you still on? Maybe she's not.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Battery could be dying. Maybe.
Here,
There we go. Come back.
you just keep this one for me.
We'll see. There we go. Because it's a unique situation, Sarah's an attorney out. She's the attorney for West Fargo and Boris and, you know, the communities that like Lincoln are going through these growth spurts right now. And maybe had seen some of this before. She hasn't either, but she was willing to come in and try to lend us some of her expertise. But so, you know, what Monty was explaining is that most of your properties that you all have and you all have, you got a deed for. And the deed probably says you own lot 1 and block 2, some subdivision. And one of the concerns that we were visiting a couple days ago was that, you know, if you vacate a plat, what happens with that legal description, which is unique to your property? Because the plats don't have a meets and bounds description, it has a lot and block designation. So the challenge is, you know, how do we vacate a plat? You know, we want these lots to qualify. If the city council is inclined to do this, we want these lots have to legally qualify to do the de-annexation, the exclusion. So how do we do this vacation? Because we have to vacate these, we're in agreement, we have to vacate these plats. How do we do this without losing the integrity of the legal descriptions that we have? So that was one of the discussions we had the other day. You know, we talked about, is it possible just to vacate the public streets and alleys? And when I say vacate the streets and alleys, we're not gonna go tear them up, obviously, there'll still be streets and alleys, it's just that they're not gonna be city streets and alleys. They'll be back to that private nature that they were in before. You know, can we vacate these plats? Let's put stuff back to the way it was. I meant to just talk about. Sorry.
I got it.
Can we put stuff back the way it was before the annexation? And so that's kind of where we kind of left the discussion at. And, you know, there's still some figuring out to do because none of us, Sarah, Monty, or myself, has seen this before. We all think we're probably experienced enough, smart enough to figure this out. But you know, we need to figure out how to do this. I mean, we vacate, exclude, and then have to replat again. It kind of seems kind of silly to do all that just to put stuff back to the condition it was before the vacation or before the annexation. But that might be it. You may have to do this in steps to put things back. That seems kind of silly and a lot of extra work, but that might be the way to do it. Monty had some thoughts that maybe would shorten that up. Some things that maybe could be vetted through the AG's office, through AG's opinions. That maybe could give us some guidance on this. But all of these options that we want to explore, you know, the cost of the exploration is there, both on the petitioner side and you know, Monty's involvement on the city side. So we thought it was fair to the council, fair to the petitioners to try to get together. We probably should have done this maybe sooner, but try to get together and see if there's an appetite on the city council's part to do this. Because if there isn't, then there isn't really much real need to move forward at this time. Because at the end of the process, no matter what that process is determined to be, it's at the end of it, the council says yay or nay. There isn't, out of all the options and possible routes to do this, at the end of every one of those routes and options, city council has the ability to say yes or no to it. So we're asking kind of, not that we want to hold you to whatever you're going to say tonight, but to get a feel before more expenses incurred in looking into this and pursuing it. So and maybe Marie wants to talk a little bit about some of this as well.
Do a backstory a little bit, because I know we have a new council member. Hi, council, mayor, and residents. My name is Marie Mills, and I am the petitioner representing the landowners of the north and south parcels requesting to be excluded from Lincoln, which includes Darwin DeWald, Lorraine and Eric Richards with Elk Industries, Kevin Seen with Bunker Hills, the family of George Mills and Joshua Mills, Jason Bauman with Anytime Investments, Tracy and Ken Zeeb with Just for Pets, Renee and John Craven with Craven Enterprises, Levi Berger and Brian Berger with Dakota 5, Brandon and Alicia Bailey with Integrity Landscapes, Jason Wolf and family with Wolf Storage, Dennis Quant with Quant Properties, Stephen Schneidley and Chris Langenfelter with Cro-Magnon Investments, Shane Flayland, Troy Fleck with MySpace, and Adam Scala with Scala Diesel Repair. Hopefully I got everybody. Our family has lived east of Lincoln since 2012. What started as pasture land for cattle is now our 6 acres, total consisting of our home and a home plus acreage in trust in which our 2 adult children are the beneficiaries of. We, like many others of the forest properties that are here tonight, are South Central Rural Water members. We have private septic, private sanitation, and we do all of our own snow removal and road maintenance. We make up families and businesses. The 88 acres of forest landowners represent the definition of locally owned and family owned businesses, along with a few longtime residents that came to their properties with intentions of being rural and self-sufficient. The forced annexation into Lincoln that affected the 17 landowners in 2024 is every ETA resident's worst fear. I feel that it was immoral and unethical. It not only forced us to pay higher municipal taxes, but to a city that we are receiving no services from, all while potentially stripping us of our specific lifestyle and our home that we could afford and that we chose 14 years ago outside the city. We have not been offered any services or improvements from Lincoln since the forced annexation in 2024, nor have we declined any services. What we did receive was a 51.47% increase in our personal home taxes from our first year as Lincoln residents. You guys can have. Thank you. All of the forced landowners received anywhere from 40 to 75% increases in their taxes. I humbly ask you, council members and mayor, would you be able to absorb that high of an increase in 1 year? Or would you be fearful for your own family and your own home or business? Unfortunately, what's that?
At 100% I would be.
Thank you. Unfortunately, when financial burden is put on businesses, which many of us are also
it is passed on to our customers, causing more burden for more families. Many of the people that rent storage from these businesses are Lincoln residents, and it causes a domino effect of burden. Prior to August 2024, we were part of Apple Creek Township for almost 13 years. We paid our taxes every year, which were fair, things were peaceful, and we were part of a rural community close to the city in which most residents own their homes. Last August, I feel there was an agenda that was rushed to get the results few wanted, no matter whom and how many it hurt. Things may have appeared to be done correctly on paper, but it was unfairly done. On August 8th, 2024, many landowners showed up here in this room to oppose because we were told we had the chance to. Unfortunately, it was strategically made impossible for us to oppose because that required 25%, in which would have been 128 acres at that time. There were only 88 acres of us forced landowners to oppose because we were unfairly included in resolution number 2024-03, in which 426 acres requested to be a part of your city. There are places all over Bismarck where the city grew around on annexed property. Centennial Park is one example that you may all know of. Bismarck does not force annex. If Bismarck does not, why does it? Some of you might be thinking, oh, a forced annexation, that doesn't affect me, and it never will. We are all connected. Every negative action and every positive action a local government does has a ripple effect on all of us for generations to come. I've even heard from many people, you don't like it, then why don't you sell and move? Easier said than done. 14 years ago, there was a much different economy, much lower mortgage rates, and my husband and I were also much younger. We didn't just buy our home 14 years ago. We built it. One dirt pile, one landscaping brick, one tree planted, and one memory made at a time with bare hands as we could afford to. And we're still not done. We don't have a deck on our house. Our home is our 2 adult kids' childhood home. We were told being forced into the city of Lincoln would increase the value of our property, but unfortunately, it did the opposite. It has devalued due to much higher taxes in a city which we are receiving no services from. Not a really great selling point to a prospective buyer if we were forced to move. Lincoln Council in August of 2024, some of you voted on our annexation and passed it based on untruths that were shared with you at the time. Like we would only see a 3% tax increase from your own planning and zoning member. I have faith that this current council and the future council knows better and now will do better with accurate information. For 2 years, I have heard that it's done, we can't, it's impossible, and it's over. We have heard every reason and excuse why we can't be removed. Well, we are not going away. We deserve a resolution that doesn't burden the landowners with more unnecessary legal costs. I'm thankful for the support of all the landowners. But tonight it's time that we work together towards a solution. With that being said, I'm grateful to our new attorney that took this on for us, Scott Solom, Beulah Law, and Sarah Weir, assisting on Zoom, and we appreciate you both. Thank you for the time. Thank you, Mary.
You might want to.
I'm charging you
No.
extra. Just whatever.
I don't know, maybe some of you have questions, whether it's for Marie or for Monty or myself, you have questions, we're all here, so that would be an opportune time to ask those questions.
Oh, one thing I would like to have pointed out to Councilman Albitre, where this area is. That might give you a little insight. It is surrounded on 3 sides.
Yeah, it's a little.
So this is the south annexation is this property for the most part here. I don't think there's a parcel down here that is not included. I don't know if it's over here, but it's mostly, this is a plat right here. This is one plat. This is a plat here. And then there's, I think, 2 or 3 plats for the Mills. I believe this is Miss Mills's family's property right here. And then the other portion is Club Fido, which is up here, which is unfortunately, this picture is, I don't think is well developed. But it would be this parcel here, and then Paintball Way, there's a plat right there. So those are the places, and from a logistical standpoint, as far as services, is I believe that this, what, 66, is that right? 66, that I believe is a Lincoln maintained road, no, okay.
Not
Uh,
county.
So that's 66, and I think the county, my understanding is the county would have concerns about the right of way disappearing, right, because the plat goes like this, and so there's right of way along 22nd, there's right of way along 66. Here, there's right of way along 66, there's right of way along Lincoln Road that would have to be vacated. And then Sterling Drive, when these plats are put in place, I'm just differ with Mr. Solon just a little bit. When these plats were put in place and they were dedicated, these roads were dedicated to the public and these right of ways were dedicated to the public. They weren't private. They were the responsibility of the township or the county. The township and the county doesn't have to accept responsibility for the road, but they become owners of the road the minute the plat with those dedications is recorded. And so the difference is what I understand, whether it's through a complete vacation of the plat or just a vacation of the public dedications, is that those public roads would disappear and they would no longer be public roads. They would be private roads. And so the access would change. I don't know what effect that has on people who hold mortgages or have businesses in those. I mean, there's a lot of unintended consequences of taking property that has been platted with public dedications and then after there's been a sale, eliminating those public dedications. There's, like Scott said, there are a lot of unintended consequences, but we know along like Paintball, like I pulled all the plats yesterday and looked at them, and there are, in some of these areas, there are utility corridors, there are drainage easements, drainage areas, and all of that would have to be vacated. And I don't know what happens to the utilities that were in a public right of way when the public right of way was vacated. I don't know how whether now you have to go in and get private easements for all of those sections or what exactly that needs to be done. But it is not a simple matter to vacate the plats, and the city can't even consider removing the territory from the city until we address how we get these plats vacated. I mean, like that's like, you can't maintain a petition to exclude property if the property's been platted. So like, that's really the first hurdle that we have to focus on.
It's common for cities to vacate. I call it partial vacation, but vacate alleyways, even, roads that aren't actually roads. They're platted on a city plat, but they're actually somebody's pasture. Or there's somebody's alleyway that's become somebody's backyard, and cities vacate those and maintain the utility easements. I haven't done something, I mean, usually we're vacating the access part of that. Here we'd be vacating the access part of that. So the challenge is we want to, put stuff back into the condition it was in before the annexation. That's the challenge. And the long way to do it, and probably the certain way to do it, is to vacate the plat, do the de-annexation, and redo the plat, replat it in the county the way it was as the original plat was. It's a third step. All of these steps have expense to it. If there's a shorter way to do those, what we're talking about, maybe make some proposals to the AG's office, see what they think. If we just get rid of the public. It'd be nice just to vacate the plat with respect to where the boundaries are. You want to vacate it so it's not in the city, but leave the legal descriptions the way they are. Leave the easements where they are, leave the roads where they are. The same people that had responsibility, whether it's the private property owners or the county or the township 2 years ago, now they have it again. That's the goal. And there is definitely a way to do it in steps. It's just we're trying to see if there's a shorter, less expensive way, quicker way to do it. I think we can figure that out. I know that the long way is the way to do it. I was hoping to find something that, the long way doesn't make sense to me. It seems kind of silly to vacate a plat, do the exclusion, and then redo the exact same plat, when all we really want to do is take it out of the city and put it back in the county. But we may have to do this instead. We may find that out that we may have to do that, but
There is no way to vacate this property out of the city without vacating the plats. It's just like the city can't do that. I think we all agree to that. And there's no shortcut to vacating plats. You either have to completely vacate the plats, or the only other option that we could think of is you could vacate all of the public dedications. And that's not returning the property back to the state before the annexation. That's removing all the public dedications that were in place before the annexation. So it's not, and my research indicates that the theory is that property that's been platted with public dedications, that's an act of making the property urban. And so Scott had said something about the timing of the platting, and I don't think that's correct. I think what underlies the law is that when you take agricultural property and you plat it with public dedications, that's a sign that you're making that property more urban. And so that's why once it comes into the city, you can't take it out, because you changed it from raw agricultural land to more urban land with public roads and public easements and public right of ways. And at least that's, again, I don't know if there's anybody who's an expert on all of this, because there isn't a lot of support, but I think that if we got an AG's opinion, the AG's either going to say, yeah, you can vacate all of the public dedications and leave the lots so that you have a legal description. The difficulty with the AG opinion is that certainly you could vacate all of the public right of ways. The question is, after you've done that, do you qualify for de-annexation? So that's really the question. And the AG is either going to say, yes, you qualify, hopefully, or the AG would say, no, once it's been platted and annexed into the city, there's no method of getting it out of the city. That might be the answer.
that could be.
So the primary concern is the cost of taxes going up, correct? That's the main driver for this request.
Well, I think that's a significant consideration. I'm not sure that they were in favor of it when it happened either.
Sure.
But
Council.
We just need to have some kind of foothold for conversation.
Yep.
So a few weeks ago, there was the tax assessment meeting we had in here. And there was a question from the crowd that asked if the council or the city as a whole dictates the taxes. And the Burley County tax assessor, which this property is in Burley County, no matter what happens, was very clear that they set the taxes without any influence from the city whatsoever. And in fact, correct me if I'm wrong, council, weren't the mills adjusted to offset some of the increases?
Correct.
So the primary argument would be null and void, correct? Because we don't set those costs.
I think the, Councilman Petrie, I think the argument with the whole tax thing is because when this came to the table of council for annexing all of these plots, right? At the time, a lot of council members were toting that you're gonna have a huge, the city's gonna get a huge tax benefit because all these now plots are gonna become towards the city. So the city is gonna reap all the benefits taxes wise for all this. So that, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, where the whole tax argument comes to play, because a lot of the council members were very adamant that their taxes were not going to go up at all because of the annexation. But when they get annexed in, they're going to get reassessed and then your taxes are going to go up. It is basically how I picture the process of it. So again, correct me if I'm wrong in misspeaking, but I believe that's where the tax argument comes into play.
Right.
I think that was a reclassification is what happened.
I know Lorraine
Raised into the
dug
city.
into the mills and all of that, but Apple Creek again, when this happened 2 years ago.
And it went from a township to a city, so there's a big difference.
Reclassification.
Yep.
But,
So,
I mean, I guess I understand the formality of it, but the city doesn't dictate the tax, the county does. So
Can I speak for Lorraine Richard, and I'm one of the landowners over there, and I did a lot of research and we talked to the county auditor, and he's the one who predicted that our taxes was gonna go up by 47.5%, and that was like the average of all of us. And he was right, and we had 4 zoning members tell us that it was gonna go up 2 or 3%. That was a flat out lie, and he was talking off the top of his head. Your point that the county sets the taxes are based on the budget of the city. You put in your budget what you need for tax dollars for the school the school is Bismarck, but you put in your budget for all of that. And based on that, the mills are set, and then that's a calculation off the value of the property. So even though board doesn't say, oh, Lorraine's gonna pay 47% extra taxes, you do set the taxes. It's just you do it by your budget. Now, our taxes went from township taxes, which we support Apple Creek School and Apple Creek Township and all of our roads and all of that, perfectly happy with that, to Lincoln taxes. And that's where it went up. And to Marie's point.
And you're not receiving any service.
We aren't receiving any services. I think the gravel guys went by once last year, and that was because we called and complained, just because to make the point that, we have giant holes in Sterling Drive and nobody cares. This is just a money grab. And I wish this board had spent this much time talking about this 2 years ago as you're talking about it today. Because you wouldn't even look me in the eye 2 years ago when I was up here.
Actually, that's not true. When I came into office, we had many, many discussions, and I came here as a citizen to hear and to listen and to weigh it out. But it should be noted that there were only 2 members on this current board who were on this at the time when this annexation happened.
And I voted no.
And I understand it's a board. So if you take a straw poll and say, is this board willing to let us de-annex and then go jump through all those hoops and then re-annex or not, sorry, if we're vacate our plats, if this board does a straw poll and says, sure, we'll let that happen. And then there's an election next year. And when it comes down to it, the board, not necessarily these people, the board of Lincoln is going to make that decision. We aren't going to get to make that decision, and neither are the attorneys. Again, I would have. It does come down to the taxes. It comes down to the cost. And if your home taxes went up that much, I think you would be on the other side of this discussion.
And you're correct. You guys probably didn't have very many meetings. The problem is we were not Lincoln residents. We did not receive emails about Lincoln meetings. We were Apple Creek residents. You may pay attention to what goes on in other counties because you're a council member. Us regular everyday people that are trying to run a home and business and raise kids and families, we had no idea you guys were having meetings about us and our future and this happening until we got the paper in the mail, which a lot of these people did not get. Because if you weren't home to accept it, it went back to the mail. I would not have got mine. I came here and demanded it. Otherwise, mine would have came after the fact of the opposition. That's the problem that
I'm curious how many tax dollars you're getting off the other 400 acres out there. Because so far all they've been doing is moving dirt.
Again, the tax assessor was pretty clear that we don't set it, and we get a very small percentage of what's paid. In fact, he said that the school district takes about 40% of every dollar. So,
Mr. Avature, would you be okay paying taxes into a city that you don't get any services from?
I probably wouldn't. I would probably look at the the fact that the county sets it.
Paying your taxes, but then you have to hire private sanitation and private snow removal.
Let's be clear, I'm not arguing.
Well, I'm just-
I just gotta correct you on that, cause. Al Vittemeyer explained that whole thing. If there's like 3 or 4 new houses built out in Lincoln. He has every right to come out here and reassess and change everybody's value. That is how everything gets changed out here. One single house, yes, it's happened in North Bismarck, all of that. So that is why values can change just like that. So that is why their taxes got changed just like that. Them being annexed in brought value into all of Lincoln, brought Al Vittemeyer into being the county, and that's why everything changed for all of us. Does that make more sense now? Mathematically?
I'm not arguing for or against
Right.
it, I'm just citing what the tax assessor told us.
Right.
And if I could, I don't wanna cut off the discussion, but I think that. That really there are two issues, and the first, I mean, I understand that there's the substantive issue. That. About. What happened, what the effect was of the annexation and. And I don't wanna discount that, but I think the practical issue right now is. That there's 2 practical issues. One is the procedure to vacate plats and the cost. And you know, what Mr. Solon was suggesting was vacating the plats and then replatting with all of the processes that are in place for what that takes. I don't know what that's gonna cost the landowners, but it's probably significant because I don't know if all these plats meet the current zoning requirements of the city and whether those, you know, you can't just vacate the plat. So maybe we did that and then replat it exactly the same. Now, when you replat it, the plat's gotta comply with whatever the zoning is for the city and right, so there's that issue, but I think the biggest issue for the county, and then again, that's really a landowner question about all that expense and everything else. And what effect it has on your property and the property values. I think for the council, the issue is this, is that will they support the vacation of the public dedications, right? That's really the issue, because without that, you can't move forward with de-annexation. And, you know, my concern is that the city would lose and the public would lose a significant amount of right-of-way and other things that I think would be very, very detrimental. And I don't know how you get around that, but that's really what I think the preliminary discussion should be, which is there's not a vehicle to undo the annexation, how we got here. So like we have to follow what the law says. And the first step is, how do we deal with this issue of the plats? And the other option is to go have the legislature change the law, right? I mean, that's the other option, but like I can't as city attorney sign off on de-annexation that violates the statute. So we've got to come in compliance with the statute, and the statute says the property can't be platted. And so whether it's a partial vacation of a plat or a complete vacation of the plat, the result is the same, which is the public dedications disappear. And that's really what I think the focus should be, is whether that's realistic and is that something that the council is going to support. And of course, the problem with getting an AG opinion is it might take 2 years to get an opinion from the AG, and by then the whole council might be different. So like there are some practical issues that I think we should focus on, because that's the only way it's going to be helpful, I think, is what is the appetite of the council to lose the public dedications of 5 or 6 platted areas of the city around what I was showing, around 66 and 22nd and Lincoln Road and the drainage. And I guess for the landowners, the issue is that my review of your petitions is that not all of the property owners within these plats have signed the petitions, and will all of the property owners agree to plat vacation? Because I know, like in the Club Fido area up there, I think one of the property owners was part of maybe part of the development group. So I don't know if they're going to sign off on a vacation of that plat.
Yeah, I guess I read the statute differently. I think it says that all of the owners, all of the petitioners, all the land seeking to be de-annexed. You have to have all of the landowners in there. I mean, you can't de-annex people that don't want to participate. You can annex people that don't want to participate. You guys did, right? You guys, city council did a couple of years ago. But you can't de-annex the same way. You can't drag people in city limits with you out. That's how I read it. Here, the petitioners aren't asking for anybody else's, just their own properties. So I think that is a complete statute.
Scott, the question isn't the de-annexation, the question is the plat vacation.
Right.
Once lots have been sold in a plat, you have to have 100% of all the owners' agreement to vacate a portion of the plat. And so when I look at the plats and I match it up with the signatures who have asked for their property to be annexed, within some of those plats, there's property that we don't have a signature for. So that would be a hurdle that would
I
have
was
to be.
told by the
overcome.
previous attorney that it was 86% we needed, and we were far above that with the two that.
It's not the de-annexation
He's talking
number,
about
it's the plat vacation, that's a different statute.
Yeah, you had questioned the other day, you had heard of a partial vacation. And I think that's a legal issue that we need to figure out, but I guess, the intent tonight was to really to get a feeling for you guys where you're at with this, give you some background in it as far as actually what happened, why the petitioners are doing this, how they feel about it. And then, if they're gonna go forward and incur the expense to figure this out and to do, whatever needs to be done to vacate plats, to exclude themselves from the city and if necessary to replat it, then if they're willing to do that, and assume that we can agree that that's the legal way to do it, what are your thoughts on it?
To me, it sounds like we need to go for the Attorney General's opinion on if the plat must be vacated and at what point, or with what you are describing, plus whether you guys will qualify for de-annexation. I think that would be the next step if there is a will in council.
I would have to agree with Councilwoman Artavia on that one. It's certainly worth asking. We've come this far. I highly dislike how a landowner or a builder can come to a town and just say, hey, I'm gonna loop in all of these people and we're going to ask for them to be annexed into the city, when half of them came very disgruntled, as I would be as well, and fought against it, but yet was still approved. I highly think that is extremely disgusting for any builder to then come and take citizens and loop them in because you're building however many square acres you want to come in and buy and build on. If you want to come in and buy and build, great. But looping in other people around you just because they're around you, I don't think that's your choice. So I definitely would love an Attorney General's opinion and to know what the standards are, statutes are, and how it could or not move forward.
Question, how did we get to this point? Did the city council just come in and say, we're gonna do this and be done with it?
A builder came in and asked and put it forward and council approved it.
Without going through all this other BS that they're doing right now to get out of it?
If you have, yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, that's not quite accurate, right? My understanding is that because I don't want to throw the developer under the bus because this wasn't the developer.
Well, the developer actually called me and threatened me to vote a certain way the night before.
Really?
Oh, yes.
Oh.
So let's get our P's and Q's with this correct.
Okay, well, that's not my understanding, right? My understanding is that the prior council recognized that some of these properties had not been annexed into the city. And that if just those properties were annexed in, then there would be a protest, which would result in likely a mediation process and then a litigated process to bring them into the city. And this council asked the developer to include enough territory so that property could all be brought in as a group. So I don't think it's fair to throw the developer under the bus, because that's not the history. This was discussed from the time that I started being the city attorney. It was discussed openly that was what was the city's strategy and what their plan was. So that was what the discussion was. The developer had absolutely nothing to do with it. The city passed a resolution for annexation and included the developer's property. That was the vote of the city. So that's how we got here, just to be fair.
The builder definitely pushed it for sure. And to have the builder or one of them to call a council to say, if you don't vote against this, I'm gonna sue the city. It's pretty shitty.
I can't speak to your conversation. What I can tell you, because I negotiated the agreement with the developer that included the property that was annexed in, that it was done at the request of the city.
So previously, I don't believe that the city admitted that.
Well, it was discussed in open meetings. Since I've been city attorney, it's been discussed several times in the open here. That was what was driving part of the agreement with the developer, was to include sufficient territory to avoid the expense to the city of forced annexing property and going through litigation. So again, whether that was a wise decision by the city, but it certainly was a legal decision by the city. It was done in the open. It was discussed in the open, and that's how we got here. Now, I understand that there are people who don't like that decision, and that might have been a bad decision. It might have been an unfair decision, but it's not fair to say that the developer pushed that, because the developer did not push that. The developer didn't really care whether or not more territory was annexed in as one chunk or it came in later. This was something that the council developed as a strategy to avoid the cost of forced annexation.
Well, wasn't there some
If you would,
document?
if we're gonna make comment, please come to the podium.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but wasn't there some document back in the summer of 2024 where it was a, and I don't know what it was called, some agreement between the developer and the city of Lincoln that they were going to do this annexation and, annexation resolution 2024-03. And all of that looped all of us in, and we were like the last ones to know. Us 88 acres, these people who don't want to be in a forced annex, we were the last ones to know that we were even on the board, or that was even on the table. So yeah, it was signed before we had our meeting in August, on August, whatever it was, 8th or whatever of 2024. So we were blindsided. Everybody else, the board, you people, but the Lincoln board knew about it. The developer knew about it. And then we were the one, Lincoln was worried about getting sued. Well, guess what? That's kind of what's happening now.
I don't think anybody in Lincoln was worried about being sued, because this is what the law allows Lincoln.
Oh, the cost of litigation, sorry. It's
Yeah.
kind of all the same, because now it's costing you money.
The question that, because I understand that the council made it a priority to annex into the city these areas. And the strategy was, we can annex just these areas, and then there'll be a protest. And because of how protests work under law, then you go to mediation, and then if the mediation doesn't resolve the annexation, you go to litigation, and an administrative law judge decides the issue. The city could avoid that expense by including enough territory as part of the developer's annexation to avoid the protest.
So
That was the strategy again, whether that was a wise strategy or
and
not,
I
that's the
understand that.
strategy that was used. It wasn't because anybody was getting sued.
Okay,
It wasn't
I misspoke there, and I
illegal. No, I'm just saying, it wasn't anything illegal, and it was openly discussed in the council meetings for months before it happened.
But again, do you come to the Apple Creek Township meetings and sit in and listen to our discussion out there?
I'm not criticizing anybody.
That doesn't happen, so why would I? randomly come to Lincoln just to see if my name is gonna be on the agenda.
I'm
I
not,
mean, that's not something that we were privy to. We didn't know about it. I have another question, and this is kind of backtracking, but we did start with an empty lot in alfalfa field when we bought our land and developed it. But in order to do it properly and do it through the legally, we were in the Lincoln's ETA at that time, so we had to plat it in order to develop it and to do anything. So now if we unplat it, are we gonna be illegal because we're still in the Lincoln ETA? It's just a whole conundrum here. We paid to have it platted because we had to in order to do the development. We weren't part of Lincoln, but we had to follow Lincoln's rules and Lincoln's engineering and all of that. And now if we deplat it, where does that leave us? I don't know, I don't know, I'm sorry, I'm done, I guess. Thank you.
If I may, I feel like we're maybe kind of getting a little bit out of the purview of what was trying to be accomplished initially. But I guess I would be of the opinion at this point that it seems like there isn't a clear understanding of if it's even legal for the de-annexation at this time. I feel like we should get a clear answer on that before we even proceed any further from it.
So does that mean going to the AG?
I believe so.
What some of the people were asking is, what do
If
you,
you're gonna.
okay. Here he comes. What some people are asking is, going forward, whose expense is it at?
I would say at this point, since everything has been done legally, it would be at the landowner's expense to find out if they can be removed from the city.
well, I mean, the landowners don't have the ability to get an attorney general's opinion. I would have to ask on behalf of the city. And I would work with Scott and Sarah to see if we can ask the question correctly. There's no guarantee that the attorney general is going to provide an answer. I think probably we need to have the petitions dismissed first, because if there's an ongoing controversy, I don't think the AG's office is going to provide an opinion. And I mean, we'll have to work our way through that. But as of right now, the petitions are not, they don't meet the requirements of law. So I think the step would be to have those dismissed, then work to ask for an attorney general's opinion on this question of how you vacate the plats, or can you vacate the plats, and then wait and see what the attorney general says.
There were also question on the floor was, moving forward, does it even pay to move forward? They wanted to know what these people's opinion is. That's what the question was.
I think the question is, assuming that there's a legal route to do this. Again, no matter what the route is, at the end of it, city council says yay or nay. So, and not that you guys can be bound by what say tonight, because that's not the ask. The ask is by this group is, if there is a legal route to do this, is this something the city council would support?
Again, I would like to speak to the fact that we are a current city council, so regardless of our opinion at this time, it cannot be bound for a future council. I know you know that, but just to, so everybody's clear. It's great for you to know. I think 3 of us have answered in a way that probably will give you some understanding of that. But again, to be clear to the landowners, I do have a great concern for all of you and your cost involved with all of this, and I have for a long time. And that's maybe a bigger question for you all to gather and consider from my perspective as well.
And I don't, you guys are just talking about hammering your sewer lines and fixing some water issues, and we're not talking that type of cost. We're talking some surveyors drawing up plats and things. I mean, and that's really between the property owners. If they're willing to do it, and they tell you we're willing to do it, there's a process, we understand what that process is, and we're willing to do it. Should we move forward with it? Do we have to move forward? And I understand that the council makeup may change in a month. Hopefully whoever's running again is still on. But we do understand that the agreement may change, they'll include it. I think for purposes tonight, I think why everybody was here. Clearly, some people wanted to visit and express their disdain with the forced annexation. I understand forced annexations aren't popular. They're forced. Every annexation I've ever dealt with has been by petition. Somebody wants to come in and do a housing development or get city services. So there is the other way to do it, which is the way Monty was describing. And there very clearly is strategy involved when we do that. Because why is the city council going to go through the effort and the expense if they know that they're not going to get it? So if you can't bring in more than the 20, more enough land mass so that forced people can't get out of it, why do it? And Monty's saying that might not have been the developer, probably wasn't the developer. It probably really was a council decision. I wasn't here. I've been part of these discussions, and these are usually council discussions. They have an opportunity, which you don't always have, to bring in property that you want in your town for whatever reason. And those forest properties aren't happy with it.
Fortunately, one of the past members was a family member of the developer too, that she voted on, and which she shouldn't have. So.
She wouldn't have voted on it, it wouldn't have went through.
I will say, if reelected with a write-in, I definitely support, as I have been since day one. It's not right. Not right.
Our job is to figure out how to do it. At some point, your job is to.
And I mean, I don't disagree with Scott, but it's also to make sure that everybody understands what the consequences are of doing it, right? I mean, I know we're talking about the fairness of the forced annexation, but that's really not what I think the issue is. The issue is what you'd be making a commitment to, which is if it's possible, you're making a commitment to take these public dedications and all of these plats and making them no longer public dedications. And that, Sterling, I don't know if it's Sterling Drive or Sterling Avenue, there's no longer a Sterling Drive. There's no longer a paintball way, right? The right of way along 66 disappears. The right of way along Lincoln Road disappears. Now, the county's probably going to come in and strongly discourage you from doing that. And I understand that makes it more difficult for the landowners, but that really is what we're asking a commitment from, is for the council to make a commitment that if we can figure out a legal way to do it, you're going to support the elimination of these public right-of-ways and the easements and the drainage easements and the utility corridors, right? At the same time that you're talking about infrastructure and sewer infrastructure and other things, you'd be giving up portions of what the city has now to work with. And that is what I think the focus should be of your concern, because I think it could have a lot of unintended consequences that I'm not able to tell you about, but that's what they're asking for commitment on.
With all due respect, Mr. Rognaby, I'm sorry. We had a meeting, I believe it was last May, where we presented this. And can I ask you a question? Were you aware of the platting when you told us landowners that the way forward is to do a petition?
Yeah, I told the landowners that if I recall correctly, some of you came to the council.
Yep,
and you were upset, and I said that you should look at whether or not you can do a petition for exclusion. And I think I also expressed at that time that there's this issue with plats.
No, you didn't say anything.
No, no, you did not.
I can give you the meeting playback. I've watched them all just recently.
I was aware of it, but I think I told you I'm not your lawyer.
Oh,
Right.
I understand that, but you gave us a suggestion as the city attorney and saying the way forward is to do a petition, and I said, great. Because we have legal representation, and that is exactly what we're.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, again, that none of that changes. The impediment is not me, the impediment is not the council. The impediment is what the law allows you to do. Right, that's really what the issue is, it's what does the law allow you to do?
And can I ask, maybe our director would have some kind of, outlook on it. So when you're talking about, vacating and we get, public right of ways no longer, it affects our infrastructure. We don't then own, access. Do we have to put in new, pipes and? I'm gonna ask.
You don't have any pipes in there. It would
Along
go back
the-
the way it was. It would go back to the way the land was.
It doesn't go back to the way it was, okay, so let's be clear. If you look at the plats. And what the plats looked like before the annexation,
Okay, what if my
Plats.
land isn't platted?
the plats,
They should be able to take it out, right?
some of them, there's, I think, maybe one parcel or one group.
No, there's 5.
Well, again, if you look at where this property is. A lot of it was platted, and when it was platted, what you're talking about is whether there's any infrastructure within the plat. But all of these plats abut 22nd Avenue, they abut 66th, they abut Lincoln Road. And on the backside of those plats, there is road right of way and there is utility right of way on along 66, along 22nd or 23rd, along Lincoln Road, right? And within some of these plats, there are utility corridors, there are drainage easements and drainage directions. When you vacate the plat, all of those disappear of record. I don't know what the effect is on the infrastructure that's already in the ground. I don't know what the answer to that is, but it's
Well, what
not
I'm
just
asking
putting
is
things
if
back
it
the way
isn't
it was
platted,
before.
why can't the council take it out?
I think that's what she was asking, right?
Yeah.
So, and.
Can I ask how much all this is costing the city?
No. We got people at the podium.
I think it's okay if you guys, if you wanna get this wrapped up, it's nice to, really, we just want to come and give you some background. Talk a little bit of the challenges that we, mutually arrived at, that, it's the legal issues. But, the broad question, the big ask is, assuming there's a route legally to do this, because we don't wanna do anything. To have you guys do it. That's not the intent. If there's a solid legal way to do this. And these folks are asking to be de-annexed, come back in, sign petitions correctly, because now we know what to do. Is this something we would support? There is work to do and costs to be incurred going forward. And, if there isn't truly an interest to do this, then what if there's not an interest to do this?
Understood. So I guess council, do you have anything?
Would it be appropriate for us to each go through and give our opinions on that?
I think that would be prudent.
I'll start. I would say, once again, I think it would be good for us to go and get the Attorney General opinion on if all of the plat or a partial plat would have to be vacated. And then in receiving that answer, if we could also determine whether or not they would qualify for the de-annexation. I think that would be just the next step.
So the big ask is if that end result is yes.
Then my question back to the residents would be, have you done the math and are you willing to pay the price? If it's going to happen, that it comes back to you. Are you aware of what those costs are and are you willing collectively to do what it would take? Can I ask a question?
Well, and again, if that is yes.
My will is that we would do things fair and just. And I think you guys who have paid attention to this and my thoughts and opinions on it over the years understand what that means.
I guess my opinion on the matter, and it is only one of the whole council, so I have great empathy for the residents that have been pulled into this unwillingly. I would be in favor of the residences being able to be excluded. The business side of it, I would have a much harder time. I have a hard time picturing much economic growth for Lincoln if there are business properties that are gonna be essentially in the center of the city that have a far greater benefit to any other businesses that might be coming in. I don't see how other businesses would have a reason to come into the city versus building right outside of the city. If they have any competitors that are right in the city center that have an economic benefit over them. So I would have a hard time being in favor of the business side of it being excluded. In addition to that, I know there's at least one of these businesses that wasn't even part of this forced annexation. I would have honestly no interest in excluding that property, considering that was something that was requested by the previous owner at the time. That'd be my opinion.
I think the room, and the petitioners know how I feel, but I definitely, want to hear the AG and see what their opinions are on the realms. But I think it was done extremely unjust, and I am not in favor for it, and I would gladly vote for de-annexing the house.
I think that my opinion needs to reflect the people that live in Lincoln and that would be potentially staying in Lincoln, or the ones that are excluding you guys. Because you guys wouldn't be Lincoln citizens anymore if we voted that out. I think that it's.
Can you speak up a little bit, buddy?
Yeah. I think that.
Shut off, please.
I think that there is. I think if we set the emotion aside, it's far more black and white than we all want to admit. As Mike said, it's just if it works or not. So I think we do need to defer to the AG. I also am very well versed in the utility side of things, and I understand the massive fallout that will come from that. And somebody's going to write that check, and I don't want the city to do that. I'm not for or against it. If we can make it work where the city doesn't have to pay extra dollars and the city doesn't have to start writing checks larger than the citizens can, then I would vote yes. But we have to make sure that the city is not writing the checks for this entire thing. Fair enough. It's black and white, and we need to remove the emotion out of it.
Well, thank you for your time. We've spent probably quite a bit of it tonight. We appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll carry on to item number 3, the assumption hearing.
So I guess I need some direction. If the council then want you to deny the petitions and then by a formal letter and then bring up the ones that the way the council wants to do next.
I would make a motion to ask for that exactly, to deny the petition and to begin to move their council to find an AG opinion on whether or not flats can be partially, fully. That's the word I'm looking for. Vacated, and whether or not they would then qualify for de-annexation.
I would second that.
We have a first by Councilwoman Artavia, second by Councilman Bjornstedt. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And if we could get the roll call for that. Just
I'm sorry, with all everybody leaving, I didn't hear exactly what the wording of the motion was.
So I made a motion for Attorney Rogamy to work together with the, those who are petitioning for exclusion to deny their petition, to work together with their attorney to receive a determination from the Attorney General on whether or not all or part of the plat would have to be vacated and to qualify for de-annexation.
And
And we all said yes.
We had a first by Councilwoman Artavia, second by Councilman Bjergstedt.
thank you. Artavia,
Yes.
Berenson,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes,
Albitre,
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, what was the question?
And next is the assumption agreement.
Assumption. Okay, so I don't have that finalized. Loretta and I met and we discussed. So where this is that the city, the city's, both cities' engineers have agreed as to where the point of connection is. But the point of connection is a valve. And I see problems with having the point of connection as a valve, because when the valve breaks, who's responsible for it? And so it makes sense to me that we would be connecting to a termination point, so the valve would be Bismarck's, and then we would connect to that valve, which is theirs. And so I have a call into Michael Mart at the City of Bismarck to see if that's something that's acceptable to Bismarck, because I think the failure point will be a valve. And so that, I think that's the only change from what Bismarck has proposed, and then hopefully we'll have more progress at the next meeting.
If I may, I would like to push a little urgency on this, because I know there's at least one property on what I guess I would refer to as the Bismarck side of it that is trying to connect to this line. And Bismarck is essentially telling them, no, at this point, it seems like this is part of Lincoln's line. And so they're kind of in limbo on being able to access this water. And so I think if we can try to get this wrapped up as soon as possible,
that
we would really appreciate it.
That's why we were pushing.
We're all aware of that need, and yeah.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll go on, are you finished?
That's enough.
Okay. I will carry on to folio reports if anyone has anything to share.
nothing to share for the office, but elections are coming up, so make sure that you are out there voting.
Under my portfolio, I have to remind you that in 1 month, we'll be assigned portfolios. I have given all of you a breakout to take a look at, become familiar with, to add any thoughts, remove, add. You're welcome to give that to me. Otherwise, it'll go forward as presented.
If I may, with us having a city administrator at this point, is the plan to continue as each of the council members having portfolios, or do we want to change that to be more of a project specific thing?
That's exactly what I handed out, is project specific. No longer will there be portfolio holders for departments. It will be just like in the others, its projects, it would be the city center, it would be roads, it would be sewer.
I think I maybe misunderstood you a little bit at the start there, so that clarifies that, so thank you.
So, but what I presented was what I thought we would, given suggestions or ideas of what that would entail. But, and I have asked each of the departments to provide, if they have any specific projects that they're going to be working on, that they share that with me, so that can be included And my intent is for everybody on council to take a look at. And rather than me dictating who's going to do what, that we would go one at a time with your preferences and where your skill set is. So after I receive from the departments, we'll include those in, and then we'll make it collaborative rather than directional.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
All right. City administrator.
I do have a report and I do want to apologize for being late. State track and my sons. We did get on the podium tonight though, so
Nice.
pretty excited about that. So sorry about the attire and the lateness. We do have 3 items on my report. It was recommended by our city attorney and his HR department to go through and do a city administrator report. So that is where I have the 3 personnel items. And if you can see that we have 2 hires and 1 termination, that is all the reports I have for today.
Do you need approval on that?
I don't know. It's just letting you guys know what's been happening.
All right. Any questions for the administrator?
So we just have an opinion on, this one. I know we signed and agreed, right, to give, city administrator full control of hire or fire, anybody in the city. As a council member, I think it's beneficial to have information on the things that the city administrator has at hand. Do I want to be a part of the hire, fire, end all be all vote? I don't believe that that's necessary for council. However, I do think that the information should be privy to council so that we all know what's going on within our city and what's happening within our city and our departments. Something to add.
Can I speak to that? So as members of the council, that you are entitled to have any information that you want. I think the question is with the employment issues, you either retain the authority to make the final decision, which means the termination will occur with potential for public hearing here at the meeting, right? So city administrator or the department head might decide to terminate an employee and make that recommendation to you. But if you hold that final authority, then it's going to come up as a public agenda item. And then the potential is that that employee or the employee's lawyer is going to come and try to make a presentation to you why they should not be terminated, right? And so now we're in a public setting where we're going to be dealing with employment issues, and then does the supervisor get up and contradict, right? It's not a very beneficial way of handling hiring and or especially firing decisions. And so that is why it was our recommendation that be delegated to your city administrator. So what I would encourage you is that if you have questions about how the city administrator is exercising her authority, that you should go visit with the city administrator, and that conversation can be full and open. If it's at a point where the whole council wants to have that discussion, then we have to do it. We'll do it in an open meeting, and we can. But employment is especially a sensitive area, and what I would encourage you is that we need to build trust between the council and the administrative staff. And if you have concerns about how the administrative staff is exercising their authority, that we deal with it at that level, rather than at the kind of the level of individual hiring and firing decisions, because it's very difficult to get all of the information that it would be necessary for you to make that decision and put it in the proper context. And my concern is that the history of Lincoln, especially with the Lincoln Police Department, there have been a couple of times when the whole department has blown up and there's been workforce investigations and as I told all of you when we finished the last ones, that I really want to focus on the procedures that we're using to manage HR issues. And that really means for the council to sit kind of like a board of directors, where you're sitting above the manager and the manager is doing her job to make some of these decisions. But it doesn't mean that the information can't be full and open. It's just some of that information might not be appropriate to be full and open in a public setting. And if there are particular concerns, then I think we can develop strategies about how to bring that information to you in a way that is sensitive to the, the topic.
And I totally agree with you 100%. Again, I don't think council needs to be the firing squad, right, for any position in the city. However, I think the information should be known and everybody should be in the loop on what is going on. Because again, case in point, our police department has a great record of being good stewards to the city. And the information would have been extremely privy for all of us to know before, or I guess after the fact is when we all knew, but before would have been mighty helpful, I think. And it only benefits every single position of the city if the council is well aware of the actions and write-ups that are going on in each department, so that we can be best stewards for our city. But again, that's just my opinion. I just wanted to put it out there. I think council should be informed of information when it is extremely sensitive like that. Does it need to be public in a forum like this? No, I think a conversation for council members so that we all have that information would be great.
And I think that we're in a learning phase right now on how all of this is gonna work. You know, we went from one procedure to another one. It's gonna take time for us to all get our footing. And we'll try to be patient in the time and ask for grace.
Yeah, and I'm
All the
committed
way
to figuring out how we can structure this so
Yeah, we
that
do.
there's a great deal of comfort about what's happening, right? I just, like, what my ask would be of the council is to give the city administrator and, and the auditor some runway to get your HR policies, up to speed, and for us to figure out how this is a relatively new structure for the city. I mean, the practice has been that a lot of those decisions were made at the department head level, but your policy didn't really line up with what the practice was. So we're trying to bring all that in. And to the extent any of you have concerns, let's figure out how they can be addressed. I'm not suggesting that any of your concerns not be addressed. I'm just suggesting that let's be thoughtful about how we do it and what procedures we follow so that we don't create additional unintended consequences with kind of moving forward, right? That's what my goal is like some of these things are going to take a little bit of time to figure out and how to manage this correctly. But it's not my intent that any of the HR stuff will be where you're unsatisfied with the information that you're provided or that you have access to. It's just a question of how we get to your comfort level.
And I'll bring this up again in 2024, when we had our our first external investigation. It was recommended we do the administrator and possibly then the HR. I had brought that forward to haven't asked to hire either consultant or an outside contractor, or to hire somebody in the HR field that would be able to take some of this that already has. And well,
you know, do we want to bog down our administrator in HR responsibilities when she could be doing what she was hired to do as far as bringing the city forward? Planning for what the future looks like. So is this a point where we just, you know, we took the step to hire an administrator? Is it time to hire an HR?
I think it's about time. I mean, that's exactly what the whole, turnaround, right, with the internal investigation and audit even has come out to say, so why not? We're in this boat again, once again, with our whole entire.
And
Yeah.
just, you know,
That's a separate issue.
Yeah.
We're Councilwoman Davis, that's a separate issue when we look at, termination versus the authority that was over the said person that was terminated. When I had to make that decision, I had to put all emotion out and look at black and white. That is what I had to do. My job, is what you guys have given me, was to make those determinations, and it wasn't done very lightly. Terminating somebody is not easy. So I had to look at policy, I had to look at the problems, the write-ups, I had to look at everything. And then I had to look at the safety of the citizens in the city. And then I had to look at the fiscal responsibility. Had the things that were happening gotten us in trouble as a city police department? I had to look at one piece. I know you're looking at a whole. I had to look at one piece because that's what my task was. I had to look at one piece. I had to look at black and white. I had to look at policy. I had to look at fiscal responsibility and the safety of the citizens. That it went down to those two things, the safety of the citizens and the financial responsibility that the city could have gotten themselves into.
And I totally understand
But
that, and I agree with that.
And I know where
However,
you're at. I know where you're at, and that's completely separate from the termination. It is completely different.
But what I'm really talking about too is the reasoning you gave me for the termination, right? Because I've seen that happen more times than I can count. So.
I was tasked with
Frustrating.
one person to make a decision on termination. I had to look at what was in front of me, not what has happened in the past, what is currently
Well,
happening.
that was certainly.
That is
I'm not-
outside, that is a separate issue. It is
And I want to clarify that.
binary. There's separate things that still need to be addressed, and they will be. But I had to look at that one specific thing at that time. That is where that decision came from.
And I think the council should have had some information on what was going on, because it just is continuing to spiral with more things.
If I may, and Attorney Rodney can let me know if this would be an issue at all. But for the council to have the information, would it be appropriate to have the city administrator that when a termination is made, to just have a report sent out, just listing what your findings were that brought you to the conclusion for the termination?
I think even before the termination would be beneficial, whether we can't change her mind or influence whatever, right?
But
that person makes up that decision and all, but to us to have that information beforehand, I think is just beneficial and helpful all around, no matter what department it is.
But the council isn't gonna be part of the termination.
That's not the point.
That's
That's not the point.
understood, but can I point out the fact that in most cities, you're not gonna have any of that information beforehand. But Lincoln is different. We are a small community, small departments. People are gonna ask us, and so no, we don't have a deciding vote, but maybe, you know, we have the motions for each of the action items.
We might have more information at hand to bring to light. That's all I'm trying to get to. If you express some things to people, you might find out a lot more.
So.
Yeah, I think that what I would say is that all of this might be doable by policy. I mean, my perspective on this is we need to figure out what the best practices are for our city of our size. And that partly gonna be what the council wants. So, I mean, I'm not prejudging or, from my perspective as your council, all I'm asking for is some runway and some input and some opportunity, right, to figure out how to make this process the best process we can that suits what you want, and then also satisfies our legal requirement, and also recognizes that employment is a complicated legal area with a lot of things that are not common sense as to what you can and cannot do in that space, which is why, like, even in my office, I don't practice employment law because it's a specialized area because of the federal rules and the state rules and how all those kind of overlap. So my caution isn't because I'm trying to limit your involvement or your information. My caution is I want to make sure that we don't have an unintended consequence of violating some law or statute or creating additional issues as we work our way through this. So Councilwoman Davis, I'm happy to work with you to try to figure out a system that would satisfy what you're asking. We just need some time because we're going through this period of transition with the city administrator and the clear delegation of authority. And now we're working with Auditor Ehrman with the revision of part of the HR manual that deals with some of these issues, right? So this has our attention. We just need a little runway to figure out how to do it in a thoughtful way.
Well, and one great way would have any employee of the city not talk horribly about any other employee of the city, especially on camera. That would be number one.
So, if we
They don't want
Like
to talk,
to.
which is okay. Communicate. How many of you have gone into your portfolio holders' offices to talk to the director or department head about what's going on in their department?
You wanna express what you said to me? What you called me?
can we point of order? Point of order.
That's, I'm just asking, how, communicate to us, ask us questions. We want that. But you don't. You don't. At all.
I would disagree with that, Chief, because there have been many times where I have asked you, I have reached out. May I please finish?
I haven't said anything.
I have asked you for reports, I have asked you for communication, and in some most recent reports, I see that you accused me of not reaching out to you. And I would say that I do have a history of asking you how I can help, and that I have received not always the type of communication that I hoped for as well.
Okay,
So
so should we go back to the emails that you were requesting? Is that how you're requesting stuff? Because you have there on February was the last time you asked. No.
I met with you several times in person, and so I'm just saying, to your point, is all I'm saying, that I have made a lot of effort.
When in person?
I can go back and give you many dates.
That'd be great. And as for the report you're talking about, are you talking about the complaint that I filed against you? That's the one? Okay.
Here we go.
Wow, so. I think that we need to carry or go forward with, finance report. Auditor.
You guys have the March
If you would-
2026 financial report. The gentleman needs to come back in, the door's locked. Thank you. You have the March 2026 bank reconciliation in front of you. And then also the main tables. Hopefully I will have April's reconciliation done for the first meeting in June. Just need a motion to approve those two items. Separately. Yes.
I'm sorry, I was.
The March, I'll make a motion to approve the March 2026 financial report.
We have a first by Councilwoman Davis. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Bjornstad. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We can do the roll call, please.
Ratalia,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Albichu.
Yes.
I don't have a problem. So now we'll carry on to the May payables.
I'll make a motion to approve the May payables.
First by Councilwoman Davis,
I'll second.
second by Councilman Bjornstad. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And so moved. If we could have a roll call for that, please.
Ratalia,
Yes.
Pearson, David,
Yes.
Albichu.
Yes.
I will say I do like, as an accountant, seeing a difference of zero. It's always nice when things balance out.
Don't expect that for April.
Okay.
It's not gonna happen.
What's the expectation?
Well, no,
You said it.
I already know it's not gonna happen because our citizens portal has got like 2 payments came through and 2 payments didn't. Right on that 30th, so it's just not. I'll see
That doesn't have the-
It's 8-1.
Yeah.
So, if there is no other business before council, it is 8:49 and we stand adjourned.